You are listening to How to Get Over Your Ex, episode number 115. I wasn't chosen. Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, breakup coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Hello, my beautiful Bravehearts. How is everyone doing? I'm so excited to be here with you today. We're going to talk about a topic that comes up very frequently around not being chosen. There's a lot of different flavors that I've seen with this. I've seen people who, were in like affairs and they either chose to go back to the wife or not. And then I'm talking to the wife or I'm talking to the person who is having the affair. I've seen, Braveheart's exes move on quickly. And so then that makes them think they chose someone else over them. And I hear it a lot. This is like one of the most common lines that comes up in coaching is, I wasn't chosen. I want to be chosen. How come I wasn't chosen? And it most recently came up in a coaching call with someone in the Get Over Your Ex program about how she built this amazing family. She has 2 beautiful kids. She had the husband. She had this amazing family that she loved so, so much. And it was like a perfect, scenario. And then her ex-husband stated that he no longer wanted family. It wasn't as important to him as it was to her. And it was making her believe that she could no longer have the family she desired because he didn't choose me. And he didn't choose to have a family or stay with the family or be with the family unit anymore, which meant she could no longer have what she wanted. And so we did a lot of coaching around this, and it comes down to the broader issue of just not being chosen. And we talked a lot about last week in episode 114, creating something that might feel impossible to you. So if you missed that, I highly recommend going back and listening to that episode. It's a really good one. And we walk through how to create something that feels impossible. So for her, it felt like creating the family without her ex-husband felt impossible. And it all came down to he didn't choose me. Now, and I guess another flavor of that is I can't have what I want because he didn't choose me, right? Like it's this whole line about being chosen, and we think we want to be chosen. And I want you to think about how you feel when we think that, like, this other person didn't choose me. I wasn't chosen. And you can even see this in like job applications, right? If you're applying to other jobs, things like that, and you're not chosen to do that job, one of the things that you might say is, I wasn't chosen. And this is an optional belief that feels really true. And you have data to back it up saying this person chose this person and not me, and therefore it means I wasn't chosen. But notice it's an optional belief that causes a lot of unnecessary pain. It makes us feel defeated, and when we feel defeated, we kind of like throw our hands up in the air and don't do anything with it. And then therefore, we're not choosing ourselves. Now, what I want to talk about is we forget that we built the relationship that we loved so much that we're desperately yearning for. And it's really fascinating to me because when we're saying, he didn't choose me, we're saying it in a way that is a problem. Like, why is that a problem? Why is it a problem if someone else chooses to live their life differently or be with someone else? And we make it a problem because we think that we can't have what we want if that person chooses differently, which is not necessarily the case. And we forget that. And in this specific example, this woman, this amazing Braveheart, forgot that she built that family that she loved so much, the family that she wanted to create. She built that. She was the one that attracted her partner. She was the one that generated and created those 2 amazing, beautiful, amazing kids. She built that family and curated that family, and that is what she forgot all because she's telling herself, I wasn't chosen and I can't have what I want because he didn't choose me or the family. And here's what I have to say. I have about 4 bullet points of, messages that I want to get across when it comes to this belief that I wasn't chosen. I want to be very clear that when we say he chose her over me, like maybe he chose a new relationship, I want to be clear that he didn't choose her, he chose himself. And every time you're saying that he chose her, not me, you're choosing him instead of yourself. Because again, when you're saying he chose her over me, we feel terrible about ourselves. And when we feel terrible about ourselves, how do we show up? What do? We nitpick. We have negative self-talk. We beat ourselves up. We think there's something to fix about ourselves. And we're not choosing ourselves. We're not showing up and saying, hey, I want a husband who shows the fuck up. I want a family who wants to be a part of the family. I mean, kids sometimes are like, I don't want to be part of the family, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about I want a husband who wants to be in the family unit with me, right? That's what an ideal family looks like for me. And notice that every time we're saying he chose her over me, we're literally choosing him over ourselves. Instead of just saying, it doesn't even matter what he chose because I still get to choose for me. The second thing that I want to talk about is just because this feels outside of your control, because I get it, right? Someone else makes a decision that dramatically affects your life doesn't mean it is outside of your control. Just because the situation feels outside of your control and this other human is outside of your control doesn't mean your life is outside of your control. And when we're telling ourselves that someone didn't choose us, notice how out of control you might feel. Right? And it's not necessarily that you're out of control, it just feels like you're out of control. Only because you're telling yourself, he chose her over me, aka I'm not in control of what I want because I need him to cooperate with me, which is simply not true. You can still have, and this is what we talked about with this specific Braveheart, is you can still have the beautiful, amazing family that you want. And honestly, you're going to have a family that's better because the husband's actually going to want to be there and be a part of the family, which is huge. You don't want a family member who's like, I don't want to be a part of the family unit, who doesn't want to do the family unit things. At least I don't. The third thing that I want to talk about is it doesn't matter what someone else decides on or chooses. It matters what you choose. And I want you to choose you. I want you to choose your most authentic desires in your life. I want you to go out and choose the things that bring you joy. I want you to choose a life and curate a life and paint a life that is everything that you've wanted and you've desired. And honestly, when there aren't other humans in your life, it's so much easier to do that. Just being really honest here is when I remember living with myself is always in my mind so much easier than living with another human. I'm I want this here, and for me, it typically goes I am very minimalist. I don't like a lot of things. I don't like picture frames up. I don't like if it was up to me, we'd have some crystals and that's it. I don't want anything sitting anywhere. I just prefer nothing. And so notice how much freedom you're about to have when a relationship comes to a completion. You have freedom to redesign your life again, exactly the way that you want. And the cool part is you can find a partner who wants the same wants as you, naturally and organically, which I think is an amazing blessing. The next thing that I want to say is we have forgotten that we built the amazing result/world that we had in the first place, not him. No matter how much that feels true to you, you're the one that built it. You are the one that attracted that kind of partner. If you attracted that kind of partner once, you can absolutely attract that kind of partner twice. And then the question comes down to, do I want to attract the same kind of partner? And the answer might be, yeah, I want someone who's similar, but you might have some things that you want actually to be different, and that's beautiful and that's amazing. But recognize you created the relationship and you created the family the way that you did. And you created that, not him. Your thoughts generated all the feelings that you had in that relationship, not him. So it doesn't matter what he chooses because you get to create whatever kind of relationship that you want. You get to choose what kind of life that you want. Like, I literally want you to imagine going to the candy store with your best friend, and your best friend's like, ooh, I want a lollipop. And you're like, what? Why are you choosing the lollipop over the gumball? I want the gumball. And it's like, it's such like a scarcity mindset to be in, of saying, if because one person chooses one thing, it means I don't get what I want. So not true, right? Your best friend can have the lollipop and you can have the gumball. Heck, you guys should both get lollipops and gumballs, right? You can try both of them. I'm fascinated that that wasn't an ice cream analogy, but it's fine. Okay, so here's a solution for all of you guys that I want to give you. The first main point that I'm going to run home today is that I want you to remember that you created everything you had, which means you can do it again. You created the family, the relationship, the life that you had, which means you can create it again and you can build it even better. And you guys, in less time. Think about, things that you've done once and how amazing it is when you do it a second time. Like, I think about this with my business. For a while in the beginning, when I got coaching with my business coach a lot, I was always afraid the business was going to go away or something was going to happen. And she's like, okay, and so what? What would happen if that happened? You'd build a second business. Okay, and is it going to go faster? Probably, because I know a lot now about business and I know a lot about building a business. So there are things that I would do differently. I would make it better. It'd be so much more efficient. I'd probably skip the whole first year of my business. And same thing with small things like a protein shake. Like I have this coffee protein shake from Arbonne, which I love so much. And the first time I made it, and it was way too, I added coconut milk to it, and it was way too much coconut milk. It was way too thick. So the second time I did it, I got it a little bit better. The third time I did it, I got it better, and I was doing it in quicker time, right? So you can create everything again if you want the same exact thing, but I highly recommend making it better and doing it in less time. Who's on board? I'm on board. We ready? Right? Okay. So the first thing I want to say is it is possible. It's totally possible. Whatever it is that you're dealing with, it's possible. We talked about this last week. And I want you to think about, maybe I'm actually being gifted an experience that is even better than the one that I have. For example, being with someone who doesn't think it's important, right? Doesn't think the family unit is important, and then trying to change that person, which is very difficult if you haven't tried it out before. If you try to change a human being, it's really hard. Versus just being with someone who naturally thinks family is important. What if you are literally being gifted by the universe the exact life you wanted? Dun, dun, dun. So cool, right? So number 2, what do I have control over right now? Ask yourself that. If I feel out of control in this situation because someone else is choosing something else, what do I have control over? Do I have control over what I choose to do with my life? Do I have control over what, and I shouldn't even be asking that. I should be just stating, you do have control over what you choose to desire in your life. You do have control over how much money you make, even if it doesn't feel like it, you guys. You do have control over the kind of house you live in, the car you drive. You have control over every single thing in your life. And even if it feels like it, notice that it only feels like it because you're telling yourself, I don't have control over it. What? The third thing I want you to ask yourself is, what do I want to choose? What life experience do I want? And allow yourself that. Allow yourself to dream and explore and get excited about what is out there and what you want. If you loved the life that you had with your ex-husband or your boyfriend, your ex-boyfriend, go and create that. But what parts can you make even better? Right? Okay. the other thing that I wanted to ask you is, what are the specific things that my brain thinks is keeping me from what I actually want? So, for example, this individual Braveheart mentioned she was 52. Like, she told me that she was 52, which was also telling me that her brain thinks that's going to keep her from creating what she wants. And we're going to get real here today. And I'm actually going to bring on some Bravehearts who are over the age of 40 to talk about this, because age is a neutral number. I want you to think about how much fucking life you still have left. If you are 50 years old, you have 50 years left. Okay? That's a long time. Think about the first 50. You spent 20 of those years probably people pleasing and like not living your life for you. You really only lived 30 years as you, as yourself. And so that means you have at least 30 more years to do. You're going to do it again. Like, you're going to do that even more, right? And so looking at your age as a reason as to why you shouldn't do something is so detrimental to your life. I talk to my mom about this all of the time. I'm like, Mom, you're 70 years old. You've got 30 years. 30 years. You might as well make the best of them. Like, you might as well enjoy the last 30 years, right? And what's fascinating is she also used words her ex-husband stated as reasons as to why she couldn't actually, have what she wants. And that's the other thing too, is like, again, words are words. They're all neutral, and you get to decide what you want to make them mean. If everyone around you is saying that's impossible, that's not realistic, you should set your standards lower, whatever it might be, I really want you to think about, and I said this in the last episode, 114, is when people go after things that seem impossible, everyone else around them thinks they're crazy until they've done it, and then all of a sudden they're a genius. So let people be wrong about you. It's okay that they don't get it. It's okay that they're wrong about you. Allow them to be wrong and go after what you actually want and prove them wrong. And then the last thing that I want to say is, just because one human chooses a specific life path, does that mean that you can't have the life path that you desire? Is a family still available to you even when your husband states, I don't want a family, it's not important to me? Right? And don't you want a partner who thinks family is equally as important? Like, how beautiful would that be? I want a husband who's so excited to be a part of the family unit. It's like, that's one of my main aspects that I look for in someone. He's excited for that. Okay. So in conclusion, you guys, it doesn't matter what your ex chose. It doesn't keep you from choosing what you want. He didn't choose her over you. He chose himself. And remember that you have that same option. Remember that whatever you've created with him, you created on your own. He didn't do it for you. And you can do it again. And you're going to build it even better. And you're going to do it in less time. All right? Get to work, my brave hearts. I'm so excited for you. All right, I love you. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will talk to you next time. If you're loving the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast and you want to learn how to get over your ex in 3 months or less to build a life better than the one you thought you had with your ex, I would like to personally invite you to my next group course where we take everything you've learned here on the podcast and apply it to your life. Come check it out at www.lifecoachdorothy.com.